Oh, we are live indeed. It's Edge Radio Australia. Malloy with you, pressing the buttons today, and lots of buttons to press because I'm about to unveil something. Check this out. Look at the cast of thousands we have right now to discuss something very, very big. I want to ask you guys straight out, right? Okay, before we even run around here, before we even introduce ourselves, I just want to ask you all your pronouns, okay? Can we just get into that? Can we cover that? Can we have a welcome to country? Can we do all the essentials, the important stuff before we introduce each other? I'll introduce myself. I'm Aaron from Edge Radio Australia. I am with a bunch of amazing human beings that are on air right now, people who have got brilliant broadcasting, platforms, I guess would be the case. And it's a wonderful thing to see so many people who are so focused on freedom and the Australian way all in one place at the same time. I'll go around the screen if I may. Now, Martine, would you like to tell the world how you come to be here on the screen today?
Wow, part of Edge Radio. My segment is Martine's Eco and Country Bites, where I represent rural and regional WA, bringing all of those issues back to the city folk, because somehow the WA people in the country regions have kind of been a little bit forgotten in the whole equation. So doing my best for yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear.
Right. I can certainly hear that. The gentleman who couldn't hear is, of course, Michael.
Right,
Let me locked out. Can you hear us there, Michael?
I can hear you, but I couldn't hear Martine at all. I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Well, hopefully that'll clear up in the moment because everything was working a moment ago. You got to love live, don't you? Now, Michael, take this opportunity, mate. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and where you fit in the broadcasting space.
Well, first off, my pronouns are fuck off, and to do welcome to country. G'day, everybody. How you going? Welcome to Australia.
Spot on. Love the sound.
I'm a cancel playwright. I started Cafe Lockdown just to defend free speech. I have no idea what I've been doing. I've followed my heart ever since to here. My brain doesn't see the heart, the map in my heart. It just trusts it. I'm also behind Culture, which is trying to gather the art of our movement to give our movement an identity in order that people can know what they're fighting and defending. We've also set up Closed Social. Closed Social is the Freedoms, if you want to join it, the Freedoms Facebook. It does everything Facebook does, except you're completely free. And on there's people doing commerce as well and setting up pages and stuff. So it's like a fallback. If we get kicked off all the other stations and platforms, you can go to Closed Social. And currently we're going to be streaming to it in probably the next few days or about a week. And then we're streaming to it. So we won't be on Facebook from then on. Basically, we'll start on Facebook and then say, if you want to watch the rest of the interview, come to Closed Social, which would make an online community. The last thing is Cafe Lockdown, just to finish since I'm here and it's stinking hot. Cafe Lockdown is not me. I'm 13 streamers now streaming Cafe Lockdown. I only do 3 shows, official shows a week, and I'm constantly being bumped out. I'm now up into the 9:30 because I'm getting far more entertaining people who are taking the main slot. So I'm just becoming a producer, really, and going back and just encouraging. And Cafe Lockdown now, without any funding, reaches about 2 million people a month. There's a lot of crossover with that, but that's where we are. So that's been achieved just through grit.
Well, we appreciate your grit very much. You know what? Before I introduce the next person, just want to say I can see all these wonderful messages coming through, very positive stuff, but we also got a negative one already. Now, I love this because guess what? In life, you can't succeed in a fishbowl. You have to have people with different opinions. You've got to have the naysayers because guess what? Discourse is important. It's important to grow as a person, to have conversations. So if you've got positive things to say, please say them. We love interaction here at Edge Radio Australia, and I'm sure all the other platforms feel the exact same way. And the lady I'm about to introduce, well, my word, you certainly know about discourse. So you've had a few incredible conversations. It is the amazing Robin from Courage is a Cure. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much, Aaron. I know a lot about discourse. I thought you were going to say something else then. I'm glad. What a welcome. Thanks. Yes. So Michael there was just talking about the other streamers to Cafe Lockdown. Of course, I started Courage is the Cure a few years ago now, and along the way, began streaming to Cafe Lockdown as well. So I'm one of those people who've bumped Michael from one of his regular spots during the week, which I'm very grateful for. And you're actually my favourite Australian, and you should have won that Australian of the Year award, I will say. And also I'm one of the managing editors for The Light Australia, which I'm enjoying thoroughly. And we have issue 15 hot off the press right now. And I can't wait for people to get that into their little hands and pass it on after they've read it, because it's absolutely fantastic.
Sure. Go back and read episode 14 as many times as you like. Just a side note on that one. The last person coming up, look, known for many years, a fantastic player in, look, quite frankly, so many different ways. But I love the fact that, look, the rules of this country and of any country come to the political rules. We have to live by the legislation. And a man who educates so well in this space, brings great stories to light. Joel Jamal, great to have you here, Joel.
No, thanks, Aaron. You asked about my pronouns, and it's Mr. Eyebrows, so you guys can just, we already got one harmful comment in the comments. I haven't seen it.
I'll be honest, Joel. When we first started this, and I saw you come up on the screen, I actually thought it was an ad for McDonald's. The
big golden arches, got the brown arches over here.
Yes. Go on.
No, look, I was just going to say, Aaron, you've alluded to what I do. I basically teach people, who's punching you, why they're punching you, and how can you punch back politically. I'm a nerd for reading all that stuff around the rules for running in elections, how to throw the government out of government. And we've got a situation where we've got a WA state election in March, which I'm looking forward to getting over to WA and helping a lot with. But we've also got a early election potentially in March or May for the federal election to get Albo out. And so, look, that's my world. I really enjoy it. I love working with Robin over at The Light, but I have to admit, Robin and the team over there do the vast majority of the work. They massively do a phenomenal job with The Light newspaper and that phenomenal group of volunteers around the country. But I'm very much looking forward to getting into discussion. And it was quite an apt reason to call one, wasn't it? And I just think it's insane where we're at.
Well, I'm just going to say something from our little intro here, just the fact that we're talking amongst ourselves. We just really kind of summed up Australia in so much. There's a lot of backgrounds here, let's be frank, right? So ethnicities.
I didn't get to say my pronouns, by the way.
My apologies. It's good.
Yeah, it's mermaid, Vikings go home.
Oh, okay, cool. Mine are Captain Awesome. Okay, so there we go. We'll go with that one. I just want to say this, though. We just had this conversation very, very briefly, and we've noticed we've pulled the mickey out of each other, right? That is quintessentially Australian. This is so much about who we are. And we see this country its identity being erased. And that's obviously what we're going to be talking about today and what springs from that. But it's such an important thing. I've got a lot of love for everybody on the screen, quite frankly. And I think that a big part of Australianism is the fact that the more we love each other, the more we kind of rag on each other. And that's a great thing. And I never want to lose that larrikin. I don't want to lose that inner Paul Hogan that's in there,
Yep.
So let's just jump into it.
Can we actually talk about that? Because that relates to Jayanta. Jayanta, the reason you're saying we're stuck in the past is not that we're stuck in the past, is that the 4 last years of Australia, one of the greatest casualties has been Australia's identity. And that's because a lot of people did things that they never thought Australians would do. And I'm guessing that's probably you. And so the reason you don't like looking back in the past is you were confronted with a side of yourself you didn't know existed and now want to forget. And we didn't. And so what happened was we stuck to our grounds and we tried to hold on to what we believed our country was and the fundamental freedoms of our country were and principles, everything about our country that we believed, and we defended that. And we're still defending that. And now we're realizing that identity is up for grabs. And now we're trying to work on rediscovering who our identity is without having the politicians or big business and their marketing teams deciding for us who we're going to be. We have to go to the people. So just to finish with you, my love, is to basically say to yourself, maybe you've got to look back and rediscover who you are, why you did the things you are, and then move ahead. And that's the same with the Paul Hogan. The Paul Hogan idea that we're all Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee, that's gone. We're not Anzacs. We're not Paul Hogan. We don't know who we are. And that's a very exciting place to be because we can create a new country. We can be the architects of that new country if we have the ability to keep talking like we're going to talk now. So that's just
Agreed.
replying to that person.
Absolutely agree. And Michael, this is the thing. I'm, as far as also on that comment, is the fact that I'm actually living in the future, okay, not the past, because I am living in a space where I'm actually trying to help with all of you guys, with so many people who are, you know, in the modern culture. Effectively, every single person is, really. Let's be frank. But okay, as we go forward, we are making the world for our children and our grandchildren. I'm looking into the future, and I want them to have freedom. I want them to be able to express themselves. I want them to know who they are and understand that Australian culture, it's a wonderful thing. And if it wasn't so wonderful, why would the world be coming here? Why is everybody coming here if you didn't want to have a taste of this wonderful culture and this wonderful country?
No, absolutely.
Totally.
Was.
Yeah.
I think
All right,
was is the question, and we're not dealing with that, but it really is, and we're lacking that. We are not who we thought we were. The way you talked, we've got a wonderful culture. No, we had a wonderful culture. Now we have a marketing poster pulled over our culture. We don't know who we actually are. Lest we forget is in every town, and we chose to forget. So forget the Anzacs. Larrikins mean
we all have,
to the government. We belong to the. We actually followed the government. I'm saying that this is absolutely the battleground now, and I don't think a lot of people realize the battleground is now our identity. And the first thing to do is to let go of the myths and realize, define, like you say, we love freedom. Okay, here's a question to start. What is freedom?
Oh, look, it's small government. For me, it's small government. It's the ability to make my own choices. It's the ability to make my future for my own family without interference from others. Really that simple, you know. And I don't feel that I need to impose myself on others and my beliefs. I want to go out there and, live the world that I'm building for myself and the people I love. So that's freedom to me, you know. And it's not based in money. It's not based in, status or anything like that. But it's a core part of not having others infringe on the way I want to live my life.
It's a value
Just
system.
put my 2 cents worth in there about, what is freedom, particularly in the work that we all do. We all focus on different areas, like Martine with her eco and country bite, so on and so forth. For me, it's corporate media. And, think about that question, what is freedom? For me, when we outsource our thinking to a third party, whether or not that be the government or unelected bureaucrats who, want to infiltrate our thinking, or it be corporate media where everybody continues to turn on that glass box in their lounge room, for me, that means we're not free, because if we don't take control, not only of everything else in our life, but just how we think. And we've seen that now with the flood of bills that they've rushed through last week, and in particular trying to get the MAD bill through and the under 16-year-old ban. We've got the corporate media there shoving all this down people's throats and telling them what they should think, despite our Prime Minister, Mr. Anthony Albanese, telling everyone he's been out there talking to parents. Don't believe it for a second, pants on fire. When we outsource our thinking, we keep watching that corporate media, we let them dictate to us how we think. To me, that means we're not free. We need to be able to maintain free information, truth, and think for ourselves, think critically. Otherwise, we're not free.
Agreed, 100%. I actually have a bit of a concern about today's show, right? Because this is certainly, I don't think this is going to be a debate at any point, because we've got 5 people here. Yeah, there'll be a lot of anger coming the other way. But from ourselves, I think we're all coming from different angles, but we're all on the same page here. This is what we want, and I think this is what we deserve. And I think freedom is not a privilege. It's a bloody right. Full stop. It's a big part of this culture. And before Michael mentioned the diggers, the Anzacs, this is what these people fought and died for. And if you've got a level of respect in yourself, you should remember that. And you should, when we come to the sacred days in Australia, like sacred days like Anzac Day, this is when we need to remember. And this is why we need to hold on to what we've got.
You know what's interesting about that, Aaron? And I think to your point, why is it we're all in agreement on this, but where I don't see these opinions being put out on like the ABC, for example. I don't see that. You know, you see a little garnish of it on Sky News Australia, but you don't really see it on the corporate news, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 9, and the ABC, which receives $1 billion every year of our taxpayer funding, which we all know that.
Yes.
And what's really concerning about that is, for example, you know, the sort of flagship show, the Q&A on the ABC. It's like very rarely, you'd be lucky if you get one person that expresses these news. So what we've seen is this big long march to our institutions, this taking over our institutions, where they've effectively used our own tax dollars to beat us up with it. And we don't have our own opinions represented. They want us to disappear into the ether. But the problem is they're deluded by their own bubble that they've set up. So when they get hit with like the voice referendum result, they're like, what happened? It must have been misinformation. The people just must be racist, or you know, even the Northern Territory voted no. And that's the thing. Like we're dealing with a modern form of these neo-fascists that they want us to stay isolated on our little StreamYard streams online. They want us to stay out there, but there's actually a lot of us, as you heard Michael say before. You know, he gets 2 million views a month. That's 2 million views that the mainstream corporate media aren't getting. It tells you there's a huge market out there, and that's without the corporate money. That's without the online views of the algorithms pushing Michael's stuff. That's him ducking and weaving algorithms and all of that. And the same goes for, Robin and yourself, Aaron. Sorry?
That's against censorship, Joel. I've got a 10-year ban from Facebook for Cafe Lockdown, permanently banned from YouTube, permanently banned from PayPal. I recently got banned from Twitter for 12 hours for hate speech because I told a troll my penis looks like a mushroom because he told me I never say anything sensible. And that was designated as hate speech. I just got another ban from Facebook for some reason. I put it up on Twitter and said, oh, lucky the bad bill didn't go through. So that's 2 million with censorship.
Right.
Well, the idea that you're getting, the idea that you got hate speech strike for, doing a medical examination of your junk is like, that's not a violation.
I disagree. I think that should have been censored because I don't want to eat mushrooms. Okay.
Gold.
Let's censorship and shadow banning is just completely off the hook. And let's make it clear, the Australian government doesn't need the mis and disinformation bill, the censorship bill, to censor us. I just did a live stream of the city of Clarence in Tasmania, their council meeting. There was a lovely councillor, Emma, who put a motion through similar to Port Hedland. I live streamed that. I cut it down to show the reasons for the councillors who voted no. That video was removed from Facebook and YouTube, and I was given a strike. But the city of Clarence itself live streams its council meetings to YouTube. It's still up there. They haven't been given a strike, but I have for some reason. So we don't need the mad bill. YouTube can decide that what my video is misinformation and needs to be censored, and yet the council itself can keep it up there. And we just had Malcolm Roberts with his 7-hour stream yesterday about COVID, that the only real COVID inquiry that's actually happened in Australia, that's still up there on YouTube. So YouTube can pick and choose, and we don't need a bill to censor any of us. They've been doing it for a long time, whether or not you're talking about your mushroom or DNA contamination.
I can't even get onto YouTube. I'm banned from watching it. All my emails are banned. I can't even get onto it. So I'm like under 16.
Okay. You were my breakfast. Okay.
Aaron, can I just address these messages from Daniel Nino, who's clearly not from the audience? He's saying that, that's Cooker math doing 2 million views a month, Michael. Daniel, he's saying, Michael, that only, that's 1,000 people watching multiple times. The ABC's Q&A gets about 100 to 150,000 views on there. If Michael's getting 2 mil a month, how much is the ABC's Q&A? 100 to 150,000 every week. That's nothing. And so I don't know. I work with numbers all the time. I talk to different organizations about this. That's a lot of views. That's one of the top alternative media people in Australia. 2 million views a month. That sounds perfectly reasonable. And I see the numbers and the algorithm.
Down, Joel.
Sorry, mate.
I'll break it down. So we use our Twitter feeds, we use TikTok, everything that we stream to, and we got our 13 streamers. And I said, can you just we only use 10 of them because we got 3 new
Right.
ones. I said, can you just give us all your numbers? So there is some overlap, but
Of
people are
course.
watching from that. And that's what we did the figures. And that was conservative because if you go to places like Odyssey, that's people are sharing Cafe Lockdown stuff all over the world. We don't do Odyssey. So that's all that we can know. And
Even
when
the
I was
true
at
figures,
Epic,
aren't there?
first filming with my phone, I've still got a thing that I was reaching 5.2 million people a month with my phone, interviewing people in Epic. So there's a huge hunger out there, not for me, but for Australians to hear unedited voices from other Australians. And what we are, can I just say this? I've been wanting to say this for a while. What we are is I'm not a journalist. What we are, what these podcasters are, and this is what MSN and the government doesn't understand, is a lot of people see our civilization as collapsing. The social contract has been corrupted and is now non-applicable in a lot of situations. And out of that, podcasters have turned up, and we don't know the truth because we only try to ascertain the truth through the people we interview and using our critical thinking. What we're very good at is seeing bullshit and calling bullshit out, which is really easy with this government and MSN. So we call out bullshit. So we are the front line of an exodus of Australians who are looking for a new country, who are looking for a new culture. And we are the vocal face of that. That's all we are. And if we fall, other people will take our place. But there is basically COVID came in like a tsunami and took out everything we thought we were. And now there is a minor wave, rising minor wave coming back that I think will become a tsunami. And that is Australians saying, a good majority saying, we don't want tyranny. We don't want cameras in our faces. We don't want the government parenting our kids. We want to live. We don't want to have a vaccine every time we do something. There's a vaccine for everything. We actually want to get back to God, to healthiness, to spirituality, to being human beings who are valued. Because the saddest thing, the indictment that I see is I interview young people now, and I say to them, the first lines of the Australian anthem say, Australians all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. Do you think that's correct? And they go, no. And then I ask them, do you feel valued by your culture? And they go, no. And I want to get back to a point where the kids go, yeah, I do. You know, I feel the Australia values me. And then I am proud to be an Australian. And I think this is like the first building block of the culture we want to return to, a place where we are as proud of Australia as the Americans are proud of the USA.
Absolutely. And you know what?
It's all about reconnection. That's all. This whole thing's about reconnection with self and with the community. And that's what the agenda has been for a really long time, is to disconnect ourselves within and connecting to community and making us strong and successful.
And just to add to that, Martine and Michael, what you've just said, I think this is a really critical juncture. Put my teeth in. Especially, you just referenced young people there, Michael, and watching them come through, because the young people that are now young adults, they lived through, you know, the COVID war. I don't think it's over, but, you know, that's another conversation. And it's a really critical time, because if we don't catch it and connect with those people right now, you know, we won't be able to catch them before they're able to reconnect with themselves and with their family, with their friends, with the wider community, because then they become completely indoctrinated. And then it's gone past the point where our culture has been subverted. And so I think really right now it's such an important time to be able to not only speak to the young people and, you know, the people in their 20s, early 30s, but listen to them as well, because it's all well and good us having our opinions, idealizing about what it was, what it is now, what it should be, but, you know, listening to the people and the young people to see where they're at. We've got to catch them before they're fully indoctrinated, before culture is completely subverted.
Well, some of these comments coming through, negative and positive, like some of them show the level of indoctrination, because like I've got someone here who's, there's been a couple of them anyway, but Just having a bit of a look up and down, but I believe his name was Chad. He was throwing some figures forward, which are utter disinformation. If you want to play that disinformation, the naysayers are actually doing that. And it's obviously a lot of what we saw with the mainstream media over the last few years as well, telling us about numbers that we're getting. I'm looking here. I'm the only one that actually can see the true numbers as they come through. And they're fantastic. Lots of people, there are thousands of people watching this right now who are very, very interested in what we've got to say. And they're very interested in the culture of their country and protecting it. And I thank them very much for it. But the misinformation, it makes me laugh about this, Bill, because the people who have been the protagonists of it, the ones who have actually really promoted lies, okay, because before we had the word misinformation or disinformation, we had just this good old thing called lies, right? This has been going on through the mainstream media for a very long time. I'm embarrassed by the fact that I used to work in the mainstream media. It's like something I feel like I want to crawl away from, because I saw what they were doing. That's why, a big reason why I walked away from it, because I saw the fact that they were really trying to manipulate people far more than, there's no service in the mainstream media. The service is very much to government and control. Yeah.
That's all, because it's about the almighty dollar, and whoever controls the money systems and how that feeds through from top to bottom is part of this pyramid hierarchy. That's still part of the pyramid scheme, but we're putting an end to that.
Yep, we are. Well, let's get away from that. Let's jump into what's sort of, I don't know, brought this forward with us, okay, with Australia Day, right? Now, obviously, the talk of the pubs. Oh, let's throw around the room here. Can I ask first, let's go to you, Robin. Robin, what are your thoughts about the massive list of pubs that had dubious ownership that have put are now reneged on it, but have put a ban on celebrating Australia Day?
Well, I think kind of referencing, subversion. I think it's not a mistake, and people can talk about whether the government and these three-letter agencies, whether or not they're the Australian Venue Co. Or the WEF, whether they're intentionally or inadvertently making people dissatisfied with our national holiday. I've got my tinfoil hat on this morning, my tinfoil suit. The PAG, they're actually the owner of the ABC, and they are one of the partners of the World Economic Forum. And, the World Economic Forum is well on its way in multiple countries, and Australia being one of them, to erode national traditions, undermine Australian values. And this is just another globalist wet dream national holiday where they can continue to do those things. And just like The Voice, we now have the Australian public saying this is not on. And people are talking about it. People are making memes about it. Michael, you've often said we win a lot of things with memes, but I don't think it's unintentional. I do think it's on purpose to erode national traditions and undermine Australian values, because the World Economic Forum just wants society to be filled with participants who will be dominated by technocrats. And so the WEF, as I said, just has another national holiday which they can degrade and make everybody a participant in eroding our culture. So we're not having it. None of us are having it.
No, we're not having it.
Yep.
We say no. It's a very, very simple word. 2 letters, put them together and away you go. And too many Australians don't say it often enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think people are becoming more confident, I think. Just over the weekend, I was in Adelaide, and I saw and spoke to the general public, not just people who think like we do. And I saw and heard, because I was listening, that people are aware of what's going on, and people are becoming much more confident to talk about it. They're not they're not looking around wondering, oh, can I talk about this anymore? So, you know, again, with this Australia Day ban within all of these pubs, people love going down to the pub, you know,
Certainly do.
especially on Australia Day. So people are going to, and have been, as we've seen, express their feelings that they're very unhappy about it.
Yeah,
Even the
thoroughly
younger
agree.
generation, I've noticed, Robin, in the last month or so, a lot more conversations with the younger generation where so much indoctrination, levels and levels from kindy the whole way through to, you know, year 12 and university, where they're like kind of going, oh, they're really questioning. I've had a number of conversations with individuals that I didn't think I was going to have in the last month, which is great. We want to see those younger generations start to question everything that's been force-fed down their throats.
Let's look at the political angle for a moment, and I'll throw to Joel on this, because we're seeing in other countries, if I think about, look, Italy, we see the disturbances in the system over in the UK. We obviously see what's just happened in the US. Do you think that there is a genuine movement against this woke, lack of patriotism for your love of your country? Do you think there's a real fight back against this?
In terms of the voting, I mean, there clearly does seem to be I mean, we saw that with the voice referendum, you know, 60-40 and then 13% of people sitting on the sidelines. I mean, 70% of the country wasn't for dividing the country on that issue. And that was, you know, that was the woke proposal to put the voice forward. So, I mean, if you want to poll the country, that was the best poll. That's the most accurate poll you could do in this country. But with regards to the election, how will that manifest itself in the election? It won't be as clear. There is clearly a rejection of the major parties going on right now. About a third of the country votes for, 2/3 of the country votes for Labor or the coalition, and then the final third either votes for like the Greens or the Teals or whatever, and then the last 15% votes for like minor right parties. So there's a massive move away from the major parties that's happening, which previously they would get between them 90% of the vote. Now it's more like 2/3 of the vote, 66%. So look, I see an opportunity coming up. I don't think we're going to have our Trump 2024 moment just yet. I think that there's a lot of building that we still have to do. And when I say building, I mean building our cultural institutions, our social media, our newspapers, our own homeschooling, as we've been doing, our own infrastructure with regards to connecting people with supply chains, with regards to organic foods and meat, where it's full fat meat, you know, that we need all these things, and to build a parallel economy, but also finance as well. You know, we've got digital ID coming down the pipeline, and how are we going to combat things financially? So look, we've got a lot of building of infrastructure, and don't even get me started on the minor parties and the Liberal Party, who are basically on a national level, they're in complete shambles. Yeah. You know, we're not looking like a winning side right now. The minor parties I think there's 22 minor parties on a state and federal level that share our values around the country. There's 22. And that's insane. Like, there should be one. There should, just like the Greens, there should be one. And so there's something that needs to happen there. But on top of that, the Liberal Party is also having a crisis of conscience as well, with the reformation of their party as well. With Antic, for example, in South Australia, he's taken over the Liberal Party, whereas in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, they can't either get their candidate sheets in for good candidates, or they're throwing Gerard Rennick out, or they're throwing Maura Deeming out. And that's a real problem. It means that our side is divided, and when we're divided, the left will always win. So we've got a lot of building left to do. I do see a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to take some time.
I'll throw this just quickly forward. Okay? Sorry, Robin, just very quickly. I think this is a great thing about the people who are right in front of me on the screen right now, and all of those watching. This is a thing. We are reinventing the media very much across the world, right? I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but okay, the percentage of the population who now get their media from the mainstream, from the TV stations when they turn on that box, is actually only 20% now. So there's 80% of the population are getting it from other sources, which is generally social media. And independent media like ourselves, like so many other wonderful organizations out there, we are starting to turn the tide here. We just need to get more organized. This is a big thing. And this is a great example of this. We've got right now, 5 different media entities, or, influence there in the population, by working together, we'll build strength. Very much like what you were saying, Joel, about the different political parties. So sorry to cut you short there, Robin, and fire away with your thoughts if you could.
I just wanted to ask Joel his thoughts, because you were just talking about the Liberal Party, for example, getting rid of Rennick and all these sorts of things, and when we're divided, the left win. I'm just wondering, because of my tinfoil suit being too tight, that perhaps could that be on purpose? That, just like in the US, they've been presented with incompetence, absolute incompetence for years. And even with Miss Kamala, complete incompetence. Could that be applied to Australia? Because I just can't help but think, even though in my mind the Liberal and Labor Party are two cheeks of the same arse, and it doesn't really matter, I would assert, who people vote for, when you're talking about a uni party like that. But to remove people like Rennick, to put the Liberal Party and have it in this kind of state of disarray, and people are talking about the Liberal Party and how discombobulated the party itself is. And you comment there, when we're divided, the left win. I would assert perhaps they want the left to win, and it's on purpose. What are your thoughts?
By design.
It depends on what the overarching situation is with regards to who is the left. What do they want? Well, climate change before COVID was their religion. And then COVID was sort of became their new fight. COVID is accelerating climate change, and you see this percolate through. And the real basis of all this is we're without a religion now. This was a Christian nation that was set up. Basically, the morals that set up Australia, it was Christian values. Whether you're an atheist or not, it was a Christian culture, which is what attracted people like my family to come here in the 60s. So when I see this situation in Australia, I'm looking at this religion that is actually a big grift with regards to climate change. The climate change thing is complete crap. All it is it's a way for the masses to be controlled, to have less meat, to have less ability to move around the place. The most liberating thing people like you and I have is a car to get around and go where we want. It's historic. It's amazing what we can do because of that. But what's happened in the Liberal Party is it's actually been captured as a business model by people that actually lobby for or have stocks in the renewable industry. So when you see people like Matt Keane, when you see people like in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria advocating against coal, gas and nuclear energy, it's because they've been taken over. And it's because within the Liberal Party, the mechanics of it, in order to control the Liberal Party, you need members to vote on certain things. The problem is, in these particular states, the elite in these parties, they will burn the party's own constitution to stay in power so that they can keep this business model working. If you, for example, if you have someone like Alex Antic in New South Wales, we don't, but let's say you have someone, and you have someone like a Malcolm Turnbull who's pro-climate change and all that crap, these lobbyists, these groups, they will mobilize members around New South Wales to go and vote for the pro-climate change candidate and not the sort of more, less government in your life candidate. And that person will win pre-selection every time. And the problem with that is the Liberal Party used to be the Freedom Party. It used to be the original United Australia Party, in fact, was a merger with a whole bunch of other parties that formed the Liberal Party. But it's changed. And if you want to know what they used to believe, you can find it still on the Liberal Party's website, which is the Menzies We Believe statement. Now,
I've got it here.
There we go. Here's one we prepared earlier. Look at that. Love it.
And this is the problem, guys. I'm no advocate of the Liberal Party. I think that you need to assess people on who you're dealing with in front of you, because at the end of the day, you can only hold people accountable. If you're in South Australia and you want to vote for Alex Antic for the Senate, mate, you go for it. If you're in a state like Victoria and you're sick of the Liberals throwing out people like Moira Deeming, then go and vote for someone else. You've got some great viable minor parties there. You've got Senator Babbitt. You've got, One Nation have got representatives. The Libertarians have representatives. And that's what we're seeing. I'm just fresh. And sorry for the rant. I'm sort of giving you guys a download of where things are politically. But politically, we saw that in the last elections at a local level in New South Wales and Victoria. We got something like 15 plus Libertarians elected. We'd never had that before.
Yeah,
We
right.
also got John Ruddick elected a year and a half ago as a state member of the upper house for 8 years last year. They've never had that before. There is clearly a revolution going, but if we want to stop the pain sooner, we have to get organized, and that's why I do what I do.
Well, so much of it. Okay, what we're talking about here is
Can I participate in this? Because
yeah, go for
two
it.
questions have gone by, and I've been skipped. So, first off, Australia Day. In Colac, there is a place called the Red Rock Theatre, and our culture artists are going to do a live event there that weekend, Australia Day weekend. They've got a paddock
Fantastic.
there where people can camp. So look forward to that. And there's going to be Australia flags. And this is the Emily James Trio, Matt Finlay, David Riccuti, probably others. So we're going to see by actually going there and pre-selling tickets whether there's a hunger to celebrate Australia. And this will be a patriotic day, because that's why they're trying to destroy it, is if you remove patriotism, if you get people that are ashamed of their religion, ashamed of their race, ashamed of their country, then they won't fight to protect it.
Spot on.
Back to the election, I think one thing that people haven't seen, not you, Joel, but others, is that suddenly Australians are very interested in politics. For the first time, I've never seen them as interested in politics. And I think last time the federal election on, I was traveling around Australia, going town to town, and I was watching all these candidates going town to town with me, putting up their posters, trying to get interviews with MSN. I interviewed some of them, but I thought then we weren't organized. But now, as you say, Joel, we've got 22 minor candidates. I think we should use the strength of our movement, because we've had this strength. We've withstood everything for 4 years. So what do we do with that strength? I'm suggesting that all podcasters, Cafe Lockdown's going to start a thing called the Town Hall. Now, we can't do it alone because there's too many. And what we do is we get candidates from these minor parties together on a live show like this. They must address questions from the audience. We must be long form. It's basically like a full-on, even more like a job interview, really, where the Australian people, if you're interested in your future, who is, say, Joel's running? Who is Joel? Ask him questions. How does he answer them? Does he evade them? Does he not have the answer? Is he brave enough to say he's not have the answer? Why is he running in the first place? And actually almost interrogate them. And I think if we did this on Sunday nights, for the first time in my life, Sunday nights could be, the hit show could be on all the different podcasters, especially if we sorted out our time so we didn't cross over, could be really powerful. And it could scare the shit out of the major parties, because suddenly the podcasters are getting Australians to discuss what we need to discuss, which is politics.
Michael, I'm so incredibly glad to hear that we're aligned on this, because that's actually something that we're trying to do here at Edge Radio Australia. We literally have set ourselves up with studios so we can do that. Obviously, you can see Joel there in his studio, which is completely capable of doing a very similar thing. If you can put that together, town halls are a wonderful idea. We did one here at Edge in Wagen.
It's an online town hall. It's not actually in town hall. It's online. It's just called town hall.
But just getting people.
But it's live. It has to be live.
Totally agree.
Because the other politicians will not go live. They wouldn't risk it. And so these new politicians can, and that differentiates the difference between the new ones coming up who are willing to talk about anything, and the old guard who want structured questions that keep them safe.
Yes, absolutely. Look, we've talked so much about so many issues that are influencing Australian culture here. The politics of it all. I mean, we've got the Labor government at the moment, and you mentioned the Greens before. I mean, the Greens are very much the watermelon party. I mean, they're red on the inside, green on the outside. We're talking about a lot of socialism here. We are talking a lot of socialism here. The Labor Party literally have it in the first couple of paragraphs of their paperwork. So, you know, right now, socialists very much love globalism. Globalism means getting rid of being a patriot, right? Getting rid of what's special about Australia. We sit here, there is so much special about this country, and I really want to preserve it. And if it's going down the pub and having a beer with my mates and celebrating with Aussie flags and all the goodies, I think that's something that we're all entitled to do. And I don't think that a publican, I don't think that a government department, and I'll speak about the government departments soon, I'm quite sure, I don't think they've got the right to take that away from us. It's a cultural war, and I think it's for us to be the soldiers. We have to be on the front foot. We have to step forward. I've actually stopped the comments coming through. To be absolutely frank, there's so many I can't keep up with bringing them all on the screen. So I appreciate that. Like, it's absolutely wonderful, and it shows the power of putting our collective powers together here. So they'll be there available for us to read later. One of the questions was about, if any of us are actually going to be running for Parliament in the upcoming elections. I never say never, but I've made some bad decisions in the past as well. So, but I just think it's really important that we utilize our power, whoever you are. An everyday Australian has the power. Again, you step in there, you say, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not. And one great way we can actually display our power is with our wallets. So when you go into a supermarket and they are pushing something that we're completely against, right? Or you as an ethic, or your ethics, or your religion, or just whoever you are, if you're against it, guess what? Go shop elsewhere, right? In the last few years, I got all my Gillette products because I saw the damage they were doing to men and particularly boys. And I went out to the green bin and I threw every Gillette product I had, threw in the bin. All right. I will never drink a Bud Light. Not that I ever was going to anyway, but okay. All of these other products. And of course, I'm telling you right now, I'm never going to go buy a Jag, right? And I love Jags. We can hold on to, and that's English culture, but what I'm getting at is that we can hold on to our culture by controlling our own wallets, and end of the day, people care about dollars and cents in these corporations, and this is a great way of doing it. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny.
What's going on?
I was just going to say, Aaron, to wrap this up with the politics side, it's really funny the amount of people that have called me after the US election,
right,
and after the misinformation bill, saying, Joel, when can these bloody minor parties get together and form, a coalition or something? And I'm like, because they know I don't want to run. I never want to run. My role is education and, equipping people with tools. But yeah, I meet these people all the time. And I think there is, I don't know, I'm not seeing these comments right now, but I'm assuming a lot of them are about that, why these parties don't work together. And there are mechanisms that could work. I've talked to many people over the last few decades who, not me, they have tried to bring parties in the past together, and often 7 parties. And they say the reason it always falls over is ego, and and what name they're going to have. And there was one guy I was speaking to. He said, I managed to get, I think, 7 minor parties together, and we almost did it, but it fell over at the part where it was like, okay, what are we going to call it? Right. And that was what made it fall over, because they wanted to all, they all wanted to go back to their own side and say, this is for example, I'm not saying this is Katter, but it's the Bob Katter party, because it means they all merged with them.
Sure.
And so I see this and I'm like, oh, that's why we can't work together, because we're individualists. But we need some synergists. And so I made the decision a long time ago to not be a member of a political party. For me, everyone listening should become a party. Should join a party and become a member. But for me, I feel that no, I need to be outside of it, because if we're going to get out of this, we need reliable information from someone that doesn't have a vested interest, so that we can actually get some results. Because if you actually add all of our votes together, it's huge. Like in New South Wales, it's 12.6%. We need 14% for a senator. We would have got that, but the minor parties are split. Whereas the Greens got a senator because they're not split. It's one party. And so I see this as a mechanism problem for our team, and I'm trying to help fix that. I'm hoping to try and help fix that in the federal election in my state of New South Wales. But in WA, you do have a lot of parties. It probably shouldn't be that way. It should probably be one party and a long ticket, so you guys get like 4 or 5 people elected. But no, and there's going to be a lot of wastage. And I, as someone that's a little bit of a perfectionist with that, I hate wastage. I hate that inefficiency. I think that, they should be working better together and not double handling. But it is what it is.
One way that
we hear ego all the time. Sorry, mate. We hear ego all the time. I actually don't think it is ego, Joel. What I think it is respect. Okay,
right.
We have it. It's like, at the moment, the freedom movement isn't dispersed into just all people. It's consolidated into tribes. A lot of people have and there's a hierarchy heading up. There's a snobbery happening. We're doctors,
That's
we're
different.
this, we're better than this. Oh, Dave Guru. Oh, Dave Guru, he's just an ice addict in a boat. We hear this from our own party. Dave is actually being with us from the start and actually has a significant tribe. And if he's approached, he should be approached with the honors of someone who has done that. A perfect example would be how Lawrence of Arabia aligned the tribes in Saudi Arabia, did what was impossible, and then kicked the Turks out once he'd done it. So it is possible to do, but there's a lot of condescension in the stuff. And there's a lot of things, well, look, like we hear. Like I was invited to come to Adelaide to speak in Adelaide. You were too. And I never usually do this, but this, if we're going to fix this, this is a problem. So, but I was up in Queensland. I survived on nothing. I got $400, which I had to ask for, and they raised a load of money, and I ended up out of pocket going there, even though we had a massive standing ovation there. It was a great event. There was no respect given to us. It was just using my name to attract people. And I think if you want to get these minor parties together, you must treat them with the respect. I think respect is what they're after. And we mock that, oh, you've just got an ego. I don't think it is ego. These people have stood up in a time when most people have sat down. Most people have stuck their head in the ground. And you need to honor that respect first, then go with what they're doing, and then find ways they could work together. And this is when that town hall thing is bringing these two tribes together out of respect, respecting them both, and figuring out what is it that we are aligned with and what is the difference, and trying to discuss with the public, asking questions, is there any way we can bridge and offer you both respect? And if the name's the issue, let's clarify the name's the issue, then maybe we should vote on a name or something like that. And it's actually doing that, where even if you don't like other people in the freedom movement, because we have a policy in Cafe Lockdown, it's very rare for me to talk about the freedom movement online. I have a policy that we never put it down, but I feel that we are fracturing and separating, and because we condescendingly do it. I know there's some that put me down all the time, when in actual fact, we don't need to be each other's enemy. We have so many enemies. We are not each other's enemies. We are allies, even if we don't agree on certain things. And respect is the way to heal us. And on respect, there'll be unity. So you treat a Dave Guru the same way you would treat a hoodie, even if you don't like them. You treat a Bossy the same way as you treat someone else, because Bossy in his time, love him, I hate him, he had a big following. He's earned the respect. You know what I mean? And so this is what I think is the way forward. It's meeting respect.
Everyone has their own
People
role
have
in this.
achieved
That's the thing
amazing
you're
things
saying,
in this
Michael.
community all over Australia, from Darren Bergworth with MySpace. Also, a lot of the ideas, and this is really true, a lot of the ideas that have had significant effect did not come from upper echelon PhD scientists, but actually came from single mums. The Forest of the Fallen is from a single mum in Launceston. I found it, I named it, I helped market it, but that was her idea, Selkie. She is the greatest installation artist in probably Australian history by far. She gets no recognition for it, and yet now it's all over the world. They do it in England, they do it in America, they do it in Canada. One idea. The Light newspaper started with some ordinary people, and now you guys are running it, but it was ordinary people who started it. 832, the idea of 832, which was a symbol to unite us all. I'm going to an 832 gathering now. They have gatherings of people who come together and brainstorm, and they come from the different parties. It's like a corroboree of different Aboriginal tribes, and Australians used to be, and maybe we suit tribes, and they come together and do like this. And what they should do, though, is that the most influential leaders of the different groups needed to be afforded respect that they've earned, in otherwise that the tribes start coming together and moving forward in a mutually positive direction.
Martin,
Yeah,
I'm really
couldn't agree more.
Martin,
wanna
can I get
achieve,
your thoughts on this? That'd be
sorry.
great.
Sorry, Aaron. I was just going to say, if you want to achieve anything, all politics is local, and it's critical that people understand who their neighbours are and who their communities are, and gather together. In the electorate of Cessnock, which is probably one of the most encouraging council electorates in the country I've been to, I predicted that they would win a significant amount of council seats and the popular vote for the mayorship. They won in the New South Wales local election 5 of the 12 council spots, and they won the mayorship, the popular vote for the mayor. And it's not surprising. It's because there's an equation, and that means meeting relatively regularly once a month and talking about the local issues that you're upset about. Like there's a road extension, a Wallumbye Road, which they campaigned around, and they put the politicians' feet to the fire, attended council meetings, meet together, strategize. They don't have the ego. They sort of come together, and they work really well together. That's what you need. And if you do that on a council level, you can do that on a state level. If you do it on a state level, you can do it on a federal level for these particular seats. And that equation is exactly what we're seeing the Reform Party do in the UK with regards to Nigel Farage. He set up over 300 chapters, which are basically we would call them branches in Australia, where you can actually they're different groups in different electorates, the 300 different electorates. And Nigel Farage, just today, the Reform Party has overtaken the Labor UK Party and in the polling, and so that they're actually set to do very well in the next election, win at least 100 seats. And so I look at that and I'm like, who is doing that here? Cessnock Council, one council out of thousands around the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's the equation. That's what we've got to do. And so anyone can do it. You don't have to be like me, where you're a bit of a nerd for politics. Again, I was a construction guy. But no, look, when it comes to these things, you can do it yourself. It starts with 1, then 2, then 4, then 10, then 100, then 200, and then you win council. That's what happens. And so anyone can do it.
Look, I was flipping to Martine before, because I think that I would love to hear your opinion on this, because you look after our eco stuff as far as the environment, but you also talk very much about country, okay? And we see such a great movement coming from people in the country. They are so important. There's such a fabric of what is Australia. What are you hearing in the country about this whole anti-Australianism?
So for the last decade, I've been banging on the drum and getting in the ears of my family members that are farmers, and I see it as the backbone of this nation. Without our primary producers and people that put food on the table 3 times a day and are out there 7 days a week, and they don't have the leeway that people in the city certainly have to step away from the industry, apart from maybe once or twice a year. They have been working hard. When you go back and see that the destruction and the separation of the rural communities to the city started back where the Tier 3 railway system was stopped, then of course we're seeing how with the passing on of generations, people that were connected via family back to regional and rural communities always had that connection, because they had family members on farms and they were here. You know what the rainfall's been over the last month, or they're looking at a drought season, or there was a lot of compassion for that, a lot of empathy. And then there was the pulling of the royalties for regions. Now this is where things really started to slide, where we saw all that funding that was vital to making sure that we had strong and unified rural and regional communities as producers in the backbone of this nation. So what happened was that as this all came together, then we started to see now, when it comes to election, basically when we're one big massive pool in WA, we're the largest state. And as far as I can see, we have completely been thrown under the bus in every way you can imagine, with getting rid of the live sheep export. That in itself, I just reported on this week. I was speaking to someone who's involved in firefighting. They've been up at the Lancelin Wedge fire for the last 5 days. When they left, they said they were horrified to say that when they looked across all the paddocks, there was no sheep there. Well, no sheep grazing on those crops means that that's fuel for fire. So again, we get immense fires come through. And what do you think farmers are going to turn to? Oh, here's the magic solution, this not green renewables. So you can see here how these all tie in together. And so there is a certain awakening in a way. And whether you want to say that's a positive or negative thing, that word awakening, it's joining the dots. And a lot of country regional people are joining the dots so much faster than you could ever have imagined. For me, it's music to my ears, because I have been trying to wake them up for a long time. And I have family members that have been humble enough to go, I thought you were a cooker and a tin hat wearer, and I have to say that everything you said is right. And, you know, when you've been doing this for decades, where you've done your due diligent research and you have been looked at like a lunatic, really, and everything you've said, because you have researched, and it's really hard to bring up those articles, they're all suppressed. So telling people how to go and research that and where to go and look for it, and these are the links, and this is the subject matter, and people are now seeing that, yes, that overarching WEF agenda, that UN agenda, that net zero agenda, signed up to Goa, all of this is what has destroyed this nation, because it's no longer driven by the people, by communities, by regions, by state, what's necessary for each, because we are so diverse. And this, to me, brings down the point here, because when we can see that the lack of diversity and that discord has happened between regions and those that are in power, we can see here how it was able to be divided. And so now we need to step that all back. And that's why, for me, reaching out to regional and rural communities, giving them a voice, supporting all of them as best I can. And I am just one of many, many people that want to hear from these communities about how they're suffering. I mean, God, we couldn't say that we could put more pressure on farmers than they've already been through. And, you know, between the depression and suicide rate, my heart and soul goes out to all of those families that have had to endure so much for so many decades. And now we have a whole agenda that is literally about throwing agriculture primary producers completely under the bus. And it's as I see it, these people are traitors to this nation that are making these decisions, that have gone along with this agenda. And as far as I'm concerned, when we go to the polls in March, yeah, you will be served exactly what the people of Western Australia think of you, because there's very little representation of WA. Joel, you brought up the subject matter about having good representation. And when we're having to go to senators that are on other states at a federal level because we have no strong representation in WA, I think that says a lot.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, that whole keep the sheep thing is a very concerning topic to me. A lot of these farmers, they were relatively untouched compared to the cities with regards to COVID. So they didn't actually reap all the benefits of the awakening that we all got. So it can be a little bit frustrating for people like me and yourself, Martine, when we meet these farmers, because they are starting to connect with the political process, but they are starting to look at the federal National Party and the federal Liberal Party, who, in my view, are still compromised, and they will be burned. I'm unfortunately, I did attend the Canberra for Keep the Sheep in Canberra, and the Light newspaper covered it, thanks to Scott and Robin at the Light. And I from a walk around, there were very few people that recognized me at this protest. I thought it would be a lot of them would. But the concern there is a lot of them were actually pro-COVID, pro-lockdowns, pro all that stuff. And I didn't realize it was because they were on their farms. They were relatively untouched. And by the way, that's not my opinion. When I was there were farmers that were in our freedom community that didn't take the jab, and they were skeptical of all these things. And they said, I'm worried. They said they're worried about these farmers because they're turning to this Nationals and Liberals. They all came out of Parliament in their suits and their
solutions.
Jackets. They had their placards, and they're like, "Yep, vote, therefore vote National." And I did a really great interview with Bob Catter. I'm releasing soon to my members, which will soon go public. And he goes through how the Liberal National Party have killed all these farming industries like sugarcane and the shearing industry and the poultry industry, and over the last few decades. And it was a great history lesson as the grandfather of the Parliament, because he's been there the longest. But yeah, I'm very concerned about these farmers, and we've got to be there to catch them after the politics, because I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think, Joel, that you've nailed it, because what you've identified there is a lack of discourse, a lack of this kind of conversation with those that were involved or are involved in the process of getting farmers a voice across the board. So not only is it keep the sheep, and we're talking about onshore wind turbines, we're talking about massive solar arrays, we're talking about the fishing industry also, that are all at risk, all these primary food producers that are so vital for sustainability in our communities, in our nation.
Martine, what's wrong with you? Hang on. Why do we need food? Why do we need food? That's ridiculous. I mean, come on. Why would you need
I'd be
farming?
rude and say I don't know how you could even say that about how do we need food? Who likes food there, Mr.
That's what I'm fluent in, nothing but sarcasm. I want to throw to Robin because, Robin, like, you know, you're actually, you live in the hills. You've got a lovely sort of area that you come from there. I'm wondering how, in your area, how, you know, the culture is changing, the community is changing. Oh, hang on, you're not coming through there.
Sorry,
Of course,
I think you're muted.
you've muted.
Yes, I had muted myself because I was mucking around. Yes, good question, Aaron. I am a bush lady. Even my car looks like I found it in the bush. Just
It
needs
does,
a
a
new
little
paint job.
Me too.
Yeah, I do know that the hills community where I'm from, they have remained. They found each other, obviously, and they have remained constant, and they've continued to build their groups and foster smaller groups as well. And those smaller groups are now incorporating people who weren't necessarily awake to what the government was up to a few years ago, and so that's nice to watch. Is these smaller groups being fostered by people who have been savvy, and I think particularly with this snowball that is very quickly gathering size in relation to the Port Hedland motion. We can see councils all around Australia, and I am seeing action in the hills, and it's coming because the hills here where I live is actually a really large area. And I'm seeing so many different people coming from those smaller groups, which I was just referencing before, coming together to work because the hills incorporates a number of shires. Coming together to work on approaching their councils and their councillors. So even things like this with the DNA contamination, it's bringing the smaller groups together who didn't necessarily make contact with each other, you know, last year, let alone 4 years ago. So just to watch the hills people, without sounding like a horror movie, go through their phases and the evolution of the action of people. My spirits have really been returned to me because we've all been tired and weary and all those sorts of things. And I mentioned that being in Adelaide and witnessing the new phases with people in Adelaide. But you know, that your question there, Aaron, about the communities in the hills, I'm seeing that here as well. So it's very promising, very promising. So anybody out there who's tired and weary and thinks, well, you know, what does it matter? Let me tell you, people are really coming together right now.
All right, I want to pull this into our pronouns, everyone, okay? Because, of course, our pronouns in this particular little episode is, you know, Happy Australia Day. I want to throw something forward that a lot of people are unaware of, okay? That this attack on Australian culture. Now, obviously, we've talked about the pub stuff and the fact that, you know, they're not going to be celebrating Australia Day. I want to tell you something about government. I want to tell you about government departments. And when you think about the massive number of people in Australia who are employed by the government, think about this as, well, quite frankly, propaganda, okay? The propaganda that's put through. Now, I will preface this by saying I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care about the colour of your skin. I just don't care. You know, I'm very much, let's all just get along, right? Okay, so, I mean, if you know anything about my ethnicity, you realise that, you know, I'm one hell of a mixed bag. So, where I'm going on this is in public, the public service right now, they have a week where they have celebrations, where they all dress up, when they actually, they dress the building up, everybody comes in with all different costumes and all sorts of goodies, and they bring food to celebrate the LGBV6GTHBO community, okay? But they're not allowed. The Australian government do not allow them. Hey, he's got the award. But they do not allow you to celebrate Australia Day, right? if our own government, currently the Labor Party, and hopefully we'll fix that in March, but the Labor Party, if they are willing to pump that much propaganda through an Australian government department, many, okay, right across the board, I'm told, right, to almost every one of them, but certainly through major ones that you and I would be in touch with throughout our daily lives, that you can't celebrate Australia Day, but you are compelled to spend 1 week with that coloured whatever the hell that is.
It used to be white. It used to be white. It didn't used to be rainbow. So don't ask me.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
That makes me think of those terrible books, you know. We should have Michelle Kinsella here talking about Welcome to Sex and Fisting. What is that, Joel? What is that?
Well, let's just...
Yeah, so we both grew
Put
up.
on your big boy pants.
What are you guys...
Our kids, everyone just winced. That's in that book, and our Prime Minister nominated it for a book award, and everyone just put their hands over their eyes because I said that word. They want children reading about this. Everyone should be outraged and disgusted. Sorry. God.
Yeah, it should be stood down.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, while we're all on the rant front, okay, we'll go to Robin. I would like you, fire. Let's go with, I want a rant about your feelings about the public service being forced to celebrate something that's a very, very, very small part of Australian culture, life, whatever, but you can't celebrate Australia Day. Rant, let's go.
Look, you know, I mean, Joel, you just said it was white. I mean, and Aaron, you said, what is that? You know, the flag. I actually went to my library, which I frequent often. That's not the surprise. But the surprise is to look for a book about flags, right? Because who does that? I wanted to know what is a flag. I didn't want to ask some silly search engine who's going to tell me what I should think, right? I wanted to go and find a book that hasn't been adulterated. Anyway, and so, you know, reading about, Joel's even got the book there. You've got the manual.
Go, Joel.
I'm ready to go. I have a black belt in this.
Welcome
it's
to
about
consent.
it is that time you moved that way, Joel. You know, you can only be a virgin so long.
That was harsh.
He's quite the ladies' man. Come on.
But the flag, you know, that flag does not represent a country. Obviously, what it represents is somebody's personal choice about what they do in their bedroom. It represents sexual activity. Right. And all I'm going to say is that I don't think that has any place in a classroom. Who needs flags in a classroom that represents your sexual activity? Now, people can do whatever they want. No, I don't think it's reasonable that we should be forced to celebrate Pride Day, Pride Week, Pride Month. You know why? Because when I see people walking down the street with their nipples and their balls hanging out, I am offended. I am offended by that, and I don't think children should be seeing that, and I don't think my grandmother should be seeing that.
And you said I look nice. I mean, come on.
Well, you know what, Robin? That's birthing person privilege.
Birthing person privilege, yes.
I was just
been there, done that.
Eating at the time.
I don't want to.
There's only two of us doing that, Robin.
I don't want to see people's front holes either. Okay.
No, that's the most ridiculous. In Canada, you do realise that they had to come up and apologise for the fact that, the gynecological whatever it was, had to actually say that I'm really sorry, we made a mistake and we called it a vagina. It's called a front hole. That's a government agency. This just shows the woke rubbish that's going everywhere. But where I'm going on this, and I'd really love to circle back if we could do a bit of a Jen Psaki here, right? Okay, if we can do this, okay, if we could circle back to how this is affecting Australia Day.
I was getting there.
Right?
We're all getting excited, by the way. So,
you said rant.
Yeah, I did.
Exactly. So, you know, I will circle back to what I said towards the beginning of the show there about, you know, 3-letter agencies, none of who we elect, none of who we vote for. Primarily here, we're talking about the World Economic Forum. It is no mistake that they want to undermine our values, our real values as Australian people. And I think everybody, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to print off that list of pubs, particularly in Western Australia. That's where I'm from. 3 of them actually are in the hills, and I'm very unhappy about that.
Not going there again.
Certainly on Australia Day, I won't be going there. And I think I am going to go and source some new Australia Day products. I do have, like everybody does, a flag somewhere and something you've stuck on your car 6 years ago. Go and dig it up.
We need merch, Robin. Maybe let's sell that.
Well,
we need merch. We'll start. So they're not going to sell them. We'll sell them. We need to fund ourselves. We'll sell
that's right. If
flags.
anybody does sell Australia products with the Australian flag on it, send me an email to courageassecure@yahoo.com and I'll help you out. But I'm going to go and dig those things out. And, through the COVID war, Australia Day didn't really matter to me. PTSD, won't participate in third phase trial drug experiment. But this year I'm fired up and I am going to be celebrating it, and I am going to be flying the Australian flag with pride. I will not be ashamed to be Australian.
And we love that about you.
The most beautiful thing about Epic Camp was everybody there. That was a resistance meeting, a first gathering of a resistance to the government. And what was their symbol? The Australian flag. Everyone had it. I was wearing one as a cape at the start of the march, and a father came up to me and said, "Look, my daughter wants a flag. There's none available." So I gave her mine. And in response, I got this great photograph of her and her father walking away, which I still cherish. But everyone had it. On the Monday, ABC Radio, which is on 666 on the dial in Canberra, I kid you not, put out one of their callings that if you see anybody wearing the Australian flag or draping the Australian flag over their car, call the police so they can be arrested or moved on. So that day, I got this on a recording of a Hungarian man who was there, heard it, and was enraged. So on that day, in the national capital, the national carrier declared that the national flag was a yellow star. That's exactly
what they did. So true. I've had this experience myself. Michael, I've actually got a shirt which I was going to wear today, but being a single man, I'm not up with my washing. I have a shirt that is the Australian flag, and I wear it with great pride. I love this country. I love what it stands for. I love the people. I love the diversity. I love the fact that we've got everyone from all around the world, right? So when I wear that, now I've had several white people tell me that I shouldn't wear that shirt because it's racist. All right. Yeah. Now I can actually wear that shirt, put my arm around. I've got Aboriginal mates, and we'll just, or Indigenous mates, whatever you want to call people these days. Indian relatives. I've got people from all different backgrounds. And last Australia Day, I was at the fireworks that they had here in Perth, and the Lord Mayor actually announced them and did the whole thing. Guess what? Through these fireworks that were on the 26th of January, through the entire process, at no point was it acknowledged that it was Australia Day. That makes me angry. And what even makes me more angry is the fact that this is being sold as racism. Well, I was there, okay? And I'm telling you right now, there was everybody of every colour, background, sexuality, you name it. In fact, quite frankly, people of Caucasian appearance, right, were the minority. And I think that's just a wonderful thing about Australia. We're just so mixed, right? So this image that they want to sell us, that we're all racist, horrible people, is an utter lie to separate, to drag us all apart, right? We are not. This is not what Australia is about. We love our fellow man, and we're here for a good time. And come the 26th of January, I'll tell you right now, I'll be in a good pub. I won't say which one just yet, but I'm going to be at a pub, and I'd like to gather around as many people as possible. I'll be wearing my Australian flag, and I'll tell you what, I'll be knocking back a few beers, and I don't care where you come from. If you want to celebrate with me, you're very welcome indeed. End of rant.
Aaron, can I just add, and then I'll be quiet. We've had a federal MP, Daniel Molino, quote, "It has become somewhat controversial in parts of our community, and I think we're in an interesting transition at the moment with Australia Day. Turn your TV off. Stop listening to these prostitutes putting a microphone in front of these selected government people who are trying to infiltrate your brain with nonsense. It's only a transition when you listen to them and when you participate in their nonsense. Turn the telly off and stop listening to people like Daniel Molino.
Oh, that's right. Everyone right now is getting triggered. Oh, I'm triggered by this. I'm triggered by the fact that the bus goes past and it's called Trans Perth. I've had enough, right?
The ambulances are worse, but hey, who's going to stop them?
That's right. But, how about we get along? How about we get back to the core of what we're about? And Australians are about our mates. It's like when we started this show and we pulled the mickey out of each other. That is wonderful. I don't have a single Kiwi mate that I do not throw in at least one sheep joke per, paragraph. Okay, it's got to be done. That's our friendship, or scaffolding, whatever it's going to be. It's going to be one of the two. And they're going to have a go at me, and they're going to throw all the things. And because of my ethnic background, I'm going to get some pretty colourful ones as well. I love that. This is what we are. This is who we are. And let's on. You know what? The 26th of January, we need to be out there. We need to show in force exactly how we think and the pride we have in this beautiful country.
Great.
There we go. With that silence, perhaps we should end the show. I don't know. Any last thoughts? In fact, we'll throw around, I think, if I may. I'll throw to Martine. We'll go around the little loop there. Martine, what are your final thoughts?
Look, I think that I look at Australia as an opportunity to come together and unite. And as much as we can say there's been a lot of atrocities in a lot of ways in not just our own generation's history, but in generations before, I think it's time to come together. For me personally, I will always celebrate Australia Day for something special because it's the day I gave birth to my beautiful daughter. So for me, it's always very special because Australia Day is the most epic birthday to have your birthday, as far as I'm concerned. But more than anything, I look and think that I can acknowledge that some people might have issues with it for what's happened in the past, but we're not living in the past. And there's a way that we can forge forward without division. There's a way that we can acknowledge, yes, there's been a lot of things happen in this nation, but it's not just about just skin color. It's not just about one aspect of things. It's about us coming together and realizing that being divisive and being full of hate and putting together ideology and implementing them through legislation and all kinds of stuff is still what those individuals are trying to do. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that we have different skin color. We are all in the mix of this together. If people can't get past that and find a way to heal within themselves and together, then I think that we're going to have more issues. And that's not what I'm about. I'm about coming together, making Australia and especially WA as strong as possible. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm all in. I'll be celebrating probably with some completely inappropriate bikini at the beach, but I don't care. Look away. It's a beluga whale with a bikini on. So move on.
I'll wear my mankini. We can really make it work.
I'm all about that, Joel. Thanks.
Right.
I'd throw, of course, to Michael, but we've just lost the feed on Michael. So let's talk to Courage of the Cure herself, Robin.
Michael just called. There's a storm coming and his feed dropped, so apologies from Michael. And he'll have an update about their Australia Day celebration where they'll be at, no doubt, with the culture artists as well. Look, yeah, Martine, coming together, and you were talking about policies and all those sorts of things. You know, I think it's really important to consider when culture does change, you know, because public sentiment can evolve independently. Totally. Let's not forget that it can evolve independently. But in this case, with Australia Day and the pubs saying that they're not going to celebrate Australia Day, that is not an independent evolution of Australian culture, and I won't be participating in that. I won't be supporting that. To me, that is not being inclusive as the AVC purported it to be. And so, you know, I would just say again, yes, let's be mindful when culture, public sentiment, all those things can evolve independently. I think this is not the case, and I'll be celebrating Australia Day with a full heart because I want to make Australia proud again. I know people from the boys from WTF are all about making Australians proud again. And after the recent years of the COVID war, where it's been very traumatic for a lot of people, I'm going to enjoy this up and coming Australia Day.
Wonderful. Okay, I will probably see both of you. And if Joel, if you're in the neighbourhood, I think you and I can bend the elbow together as well, mate. What are your last thoughts?
Yeah, no, just all I can say is what I'll be doing. I'll be on the Central Coast. I'll be forward driving. I'll be doing a barbie. I'll be doing a spill on the barbie. Shrimp on the barbie as well, and hanging out, doing some fishing. That's what me and my family have done since we got here. We love Australia.
Love
people that want to get rid of this amazing blip in history, which is Australia, and what we have is mad, and I encourage them to go overseas to see what's actually like in the world.
Yeah. And there's that great reason, Oopsie Days, because so many people have come to this country to escape, lifestyles that weren't particularly what they're after, okay, whether it be oppression or, quite frankly, just looking for a better life for you and your family. And we've provided that in this country. And actually, we've provided the opportunity. It's up to you. Okay, it's your decision. It's your decision of how you enjoy this country. So I very much appreciate everyone who's come on the show today. All the people in the background have been watching, listening. We've gone out to a rather large audience today, so that is fantastic. Love all your comments. We'll get through those during the week. And let's get together and do this again, guys. What do you think?
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Sounds very good. All right. Before we actually close up, quick little spruik, if you could. As I say, I'll go around again. Look, Martine, would you like to promote where you're from and how people can get in contact with you and the wonderful work that you do?
Presenting Martini's Eco and Country Bites. Usually it's Thursdays at 2 p.m. And then I have segments like today that I'll just drop into as I do. So on Facebook, but also part of the Edge Radio Australia community. Plus, I'm out in regional WA, all over the shop. People are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, surprise. I'm like the surprise that just keeps giving. And that's why politicians avoid me so much in Western Australia. You're welcome.
That's right. Robin?
Yes, you can tune into Courage is the Cure on Rumble, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of YouTube, all of them. On Rumble, I have another channel called Robin's Hood, where I do all of my morning rise shows. They're a little bit different. But my longer form interviews, please go along to Courage is the Cure on Rumble, also on Cafe Lockdown. And please make sure you go along to thelightaustralia.com and you can get your hands on physical copies. You can purchase them there. You can read the digital copies and you can become a volunteer. All sorts of magical, wonderful things. Go along to thelightaustralia.com.
Lovely. All right. And Joel, Australia.
You can follow me if you just put my name, Joel Jamal, on your favorite platform. You can find where I am. I'm everywhere. I do a weekly podcast, but I tend to do a lot more podcasts more recently on the ARC podcast. But you can follow me there. You can support me financially on the Buy Me a Coffee if you search Joel Jamal there. But please do get behind the light. As Robin said, they're doing a great job. This is issue 14. Issue 15 is about to come out. So put your orders in, get it out there. I think they've been doing some very solid numbers, 200,000 prints or something every issue. So let's bump those numbers. We want to replace the corporate media next year and get the word out there on some of these things that aren't being covered. So, but thank you for having me on.
Working very hard to replace the corporate media, and that's something we're doing here at Edge Radio Australia. So if you'd like to get in contact with us, edgeradioaustralia.com. You can listen to some fantastic music, shows like this, all sorts of things. We've got lifestyle shows. We've got shows about the environment. We've got shows about politics, money, you name it, all sorts of things that help you find your freedom, okay, and your life purpose. But if you do want to get in touch with anybody here that haven't got the links, just send us an email at info@edgeradioaustralia.com. That's all you need to do. And we love your patronage, and it comes for all of these pages. If you could do the old YouTubey thing of liking and sharing and all of that for all of these platforms, we'd very much appreciate that, because guess what? Freedom, we've got some movement behind us right now. We're not going to stop. And I can certainly speak for myself and so many other people here. We have our foot flat on the throttle, and we are not going to stop until we get our country back. So with that, end of the show. Thank you so much for being part of it. It's Edge Radio Australia. Today's all been about Australia, of course, but it's all been about saving this wonderful culture. Because what are our pronouns there, Martine?
Which one? Like mine
Oh,
in particular?
Happy Australia Day.
I wanted to
Our pronouns. Happy Australia Day. That was yours, Robert. For me, I was thinking of slang words we're going to go to. I'm like, all that in a bag of chips. I'm just like going, I love that. Our slang. Slang.
how slick we are. It's fantastic. All right, end of the show. Thank you very much for being part of it. And as I say, get on there, like, share, and subscribe to all of these different platforms, because this is how we grow. Thank you very much. It's Edge Radio Australia.
Thank you.